Hello, friends. Welcome to this live stream where we discuss the film There's Someone Inside Your House, which is based on the book by Stephanie Perkins, who is known as a romance writer. Hannah and I have thoughts.
Yep.
So many thoughts. Let's goth. You're free to recycle. This is fantastic. I still love it. Currently doing my zombie makeup for work tonight. Oh, nice. I hope it looks good. Sustainability. Hello. We're going to rant. So if you enjoy just listening to a great rant, join us.
You know what, Abby? You dodged a bullet. It was bad. It was so bad. And it didn't swing back round to being good bad. It was just bad. I'm so angry.
It wasn't even bad funny. It was just bad.
It was just bad. It was just like, it wasn't even like I was sat here like giggling to myself, being like, I can't believe they did that. Like, it was just not good.
I think the beginning showed promise. Like the scene with the jock who got like slashed ankles. I didn't expect it to actually be as intense with the deaths as it was. I think the first two were the most intense. I do think like tasing. Oh, by the way, we're going into spoilers.
Yeah, like, okay, straight up, let's just go beat for beat with it and just admit that there are going to be spoilers and you don't need to watch it because it's not good.
Yeah, don't do that. So, yeah. But I was just going to say, basically, I do think when they started tasing the victims before killing them, it felt like a bit of a cop-out. I think the two deaths before then, I was like, actually, this is more intense than I thought it was going to be, at least in terms of the death.
So, in a lot of serial killer thrillers, mysteries, etc., they kind of hold to this rule that either the motive behind killing each person is the same or the way they're murdered is the same. And it's only ever flexible if something goes awry, right? And a prime example of that is Scream, which is sort of like the OG. It's the horror film that slashers like this really want to be. And obviously they have the big knife, which in this one, the knife was obnoxiously big. Like, what even was that? That was a small sword, is what that was.
Even became a sword in the end. I was like, what?
Like, ridiculous. But I agree with you. Like, the first two, it was the same motive, kind of, and certainly the same mode of killing. And then after that, the guy was just like, whatever I've got to hand. Like, what?
Also, the reasoning was all over the place. Like, yes, this guy is addicted to painkillers. It's not hurting anyone except himself. I was so confused. Like, why did he need to die?
Okay, so let's go through. Let's do this chronologically, okay? Because for some people out there, they haven't seen it. We'll talk it through beat for beat. I will say that first shot of the truck going to a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, and it looks like such a cookie cutter American farmhouse. Stunning. Like, and I feel like Netflix has this very visible Netflix aesthetic. And it looks like it's made by Netflix, right? It looks like it has this. It could be in the same world as Fear Street. It could be in the same world as the Sabrina series and Riverdale. It's in the Netflix universe, right?
Yeah.
Loved that. I loved the fact that this guy was just like meandering around his house. What a complete waste of time, though. Like, all of that to like flesh him out as a human being. He wasn't a good person. He wasn't a nice person. I didn't empathize with him. The first thing that we know about him is that he is ridiculing his younger sister for having body dysmorphia because he goes to eat a packet of crisps. She's licked the flavoring off them and put the crisps back. And rather than being like, we really should get her help, like, that's a weird thing to do. Like, I'm worried about her. No, he's annoyed because now his snack is ruined. Okay. And then, like, I really liked, like, the staging of his room. I didn't get the egg timer. That never comes up again. The egg timer never comes up again.
It was actually like a sinister thing to do. And then it was like, actually, we're just going to abandon that.
We'll completely abandon that. So basically, he sees this egg timer on the side and it's ticking away to nothing. He then wakes up later. He sets an alarm on his phone, but his phone is removed and replaced with the egg timer again. And he's late for training. So it's at this point that he then gets his ankle slashed. All of that build up was really interesting if it had gone somewhere. And like, don't get me wrong, I love it when they kill someone in the first 5 minutes. I always find that very entertaining. But like, who cares? Who cares?
I'm going to disagree with you, because I do like when people kill someone in the first 5 minutes, especially when it is going to be like a serial killer situation, because you know that you're going to meet characters. Sorry, I'm a bit too warm. You know you're going to meet characters and you know they're going to be like gone very quickly. So I don't mind like a shallow, I don't care about it, because for a horror film, I think it sets the scene of this is the level of gore you're going to get. You can stop now before you get invested, or you can keep watching. I do kind of like when they tend to do that. And the only other thing I'll add is, according to the house, he had a walk-in wardrobe. First of all, I like that because I've not actually seen a man get a walk-in wardrobe in something before. So I was like, that's nice.
Oh, that was his parents' room.
Oh, that was his parents' room? I thought it was
his
a
parents'
walk-in
room.
wardrobe.
No, that's the thing. The pictures led past his room into his parents' room. Because his room had all the debris everywhere, and he had that poster that said corn huskers, because of course the whole thing would revolve around corn. Couldn't tell you why. So that room with the golf clubs and the nice paintings, that was definitely a parent's bedroom.
Oh, that's a shame. I thought you went back into his room. Never mind, he doesn't have a walk-in wardrobe. He's not unique. Anyway, I would make that room my library. I'd make that room my library.
That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. So, okay. Here's a question then. So he gets killed for beating the shit out of this kid, Caleb, who survives it, right? Because he's on the team. And everyone looks to Caleb that Caleb might have been involved because this video is leaked afterwards, right? Why does Caleb get stabbed? What's Caleb's secret?
It doesn't
He's
make
out and gay.
any sense. It doesn't make any sense.
Like, was it just to distract the others so that it would take them too long to get there? Would it be so they were at the hospital? Like,
I know we're jumping all over the place, but later when Caleb is stabbed, she is holding the knife. And why? Like, when she was holding the knife, I thought it was going to be like, oh, her friends are going to suspect that she did it, or the police are going to suspect. No, none of that happens.
No.
I question why do a lot of the things in this film happen the way they happen. Just don't understand.
So, okay. So then the next one, right. Here's something. He's not unique. Here's the next thing, right? This girl stands up in the canteen and does this whole speech where she dead names someone and then ends it by saying, but we love them, whether they're a she, he, whatever. And it's like, that is gross. And that, I think, would have been reason enough for the killer to have got on board kapowing this person. But no, that's not a good enough reason. Instead, she's got a podcast where she is like overtly racist, and that's the thing. Also, how long was she chatting to that guy Marcus before she realized Marcus wasn't there?
I know, it was really long. It was like too long. But also, I don't understand why we needed that speech. Like, it would have been better if we thought she was a good person but obnoxious without dead naming. And then it's like, wow, look, she has a whole podcast. Rather than being like, let's spew some homophobia. So not everybody knows she's a bad person. Oh, and look, she's also a bad person because of this. Like, you can be subtle, or like be a bit more subtle.
Nuanced. How nuanced? Have we heard of it? The thing that blows my mind about that is they were like, okay, one reason isn't good enough to hate her. We need 2 reasons to hate her. And then she's only going to be sorry when it's too late. And like all this sort of stuff, right? But then for like the next person, like you said, who has a drug dependency issue, hasn't done anything wrong. The implication is, right? So we find out at the end who it is.
Before we move on, I do want to say, again, because I was a big fan of the first, 10 minutes of this film, I loved that she was in white and like blood was going everywhere, blood dripping. I loved the way that she was trapped in a small case and they were trying to stab her. I loved all of that. I also loved that she didn't die instantly. It looked like brutal. Both of their
and
deaths.
it's true because
Fantastic.
apparently, like, yeah, if you take a wound to the stomach, it can take you up to 4 hours to bleed to death. So I was here for that.
Dragging herself all over that floor.
Yeah.
Also, those people stepped into the church where she dragged herself all over the floor in blood, and nobody noticed until they looked up at her body. And I was like, "Come on, please!" But anyway,
I think the vicar or priest noticed because he kind of like opens the door and it's just like, oh my god. What I think's really funny about that is that's really bad continuity because he opens the front door and looks surprised, right? Because obviously he's been told by the director that her body is in there. So he opens it and he's surprised. Except he then opens the antechamber doors as well. So like he's opened it and gone, what? And then open another set of doors. And that's not his fault, okay? The actor was doing their best. That is bad editing.
Yes, it is. It is.
So that's unfortunate. But yeah,
I also wish somebody had put in a blood of Jesus joke, but nobody's got the Christian humor who wrote that. I'm just saying. Anyway, proceed with the plot. Continue. You're doing great.
So the next person. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's my thought as to why Rodrigo had to die. So Rodrigo has a pain meds thing, which is so lightly hinted at in the fact that he's locked in a bathroom and he's like feeling a certain way, and like he's talking to Makani, the main character, and she's like, just talk to Alex because you fancy Alex, and like him and Alex then like have this little flirty thing, but he clearly has like this drug thing. I think he got because he called Ollie a sociopath. Because at the end, the guy who has been killing everyone is like, no one knows what that word means anymore. Now, Rodrigo is not the first person to call Ollie a sociopath. Yeah. Alex is. And I feel like I would believe that it was because of that. If it weren't for that, he didn't go for Alex as well. Alex lives. So, and Alex was so angry at everybody. I kind of wanted it to be her.
Yeah, she was frustrated at everyone. I did say in my live tweets that I find it hilarious that the killer is just like, that's not the definition of the word, and then like stab someone.
Yeah.
It's the grammar police. They've actually come to murder people.
Wild.
Using English wrong.
Wild.
But yeah, the whole party scene, don't even get me started. It was an absolute mess.
So we're going, okay, I understand okay, one thing I respect is if you've got, like, if everyone's being attacked for their secrets, having, like, a get-together where everyone shares those secrets safely, so it's like, you can't be blackmailed for something, right? You're protected. Yeah. I quite like that. I don't think it was handled well. And I can't fathom in a million years why, if your dad has Nazi memorabilia as a collection, why you would turn those into things you can smoke weed out of, as opposed to just, you know, reporting it or letting people know or just generally getting out of that house as fast as humanly possible. Like, what?
This person who doesn't like their dad, who has all this stuff, there's so many occasions where he has knowledge where he can ruin his dad without needing to like murder him, where he would suffer for a more elongated period of time, which is what confuses me. I love the idea of the secret party. I agree. The dialogue when she first walks in and people are telling each other secrets was so awful. It was so stale and so forced, and I was just like, what is this?
But that was the dialogue full stop. The dialogue full stop was not good. Like, this entire time. And, like, I have so many issues with it. And, like, they made the main character a poet whose poetry was so on the nose. And then she gets fucking valedictorian and gets to read her poems in front of everyone. No.
The way that they were in the heat of the moment, and she was like, you make me disappear. And it's like, that's not the feeling you want to go for, sis. That's not the feeling you want to go
You
for.
make me feel invisible. But the thing is, right, he sits behind her and he's like, hey, Makani, hey, Ollie, why are you ignoring me? I'm not ignoring you. And having a whole conversation to himself. And she's still like, yeah, I can hang out with this guy. This guy's normal. And then, okay, right. So I've told this story before, but I think it's very funny. I once went to a house party. I got very, very drunk playing drinking games. And my friend's house was right on the seafront, and they had this like really nice balcony. And I was like, I need fresh air. I went outside. Fresh air was not my friend. I immediately felt like really woozy, and I'm staring at the sea, trying to stay upright. Okay. And this guy comes up to me, who is beautiful, right? Tall, dark, handsome, rugby player, like absolutely 10 out of 10, my type. Starts talking to me, and he goes, "You're really beautiful, Hannah." And I'm thinking, I may be drunk, but I've clocked what's going on here. And he goes, "But I can tell there's something broken about you." And because of how drunk I am, I burst into tears. Because, and you can't deny being emotionally unstable or broken if you're crying. And I just, that was obviously not the reaction he was expecting. He was obviously expecting me to be like, "I am broken, but you can fix me," or some bullshit like that, right? Yeah. I'm just flat out crying. My friends clock me outside crying with this guy who is now panicking because he's not got into my pants the way he wanted to. And they're just like, "Should we take you home?" And I'm like, "Yes, please." So they just take me home. That's what should have happened when he turned around and said, "You only want to hang out with me because you want to hang out with people more fucked up than you are, so it can make you feel normal. Go home." Go home.
I also just really am so frustrated by people calling people like ridiculous, out of their mind, like unhinged. None of them show unhinged behavior. Like not a single one.
Nope.
Again, they don't know the definitions of words in this film.
You know what? The killer had a point. The killer had a point.
It's just like,
honestly,
it was so cringe. Like her choice making makes no sense. How did she go from like being like, "Are you serious?" when this guy's talking to himself at the back of the room, to then being like, "Yo, do you want to go hook up now?" Like,
like I do like the attention though. Wild. It's wild to me. And the thing is, the problem is like the film really wants you to believe it's Ollie. The film really wants you to believe it's Ollie. Now the problem is, we know, because we're media literate, it's not going to be Ollie. It's not going to be Ollie. This stone-faced kid who hasn't shown a single emotion this entire time, wears black leather everywhere, barely says anything, and when he does, it's hella problematic. Like, he's quite clearly meant to be... who is that actor from After, which is meant to be like that Harry Styles romance fanfic thing?
I didn't delve into that.
Well, anyway... He's like this. He looks like a poor man's version. Actually, I'm gonna send you a photo. I'll show you the actor, and you tell me that he's not just a poor man's version of that.
Also, I was gonna say I would have given this film 10,000 points if the murderer ended up being that creepy weirdo Uber driver, and he'd got the secrets from just sitting in the car with everybody else. Just that would have been smart. At least it would have had a semblance of Agatha Christie vibes.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't the Uber driver, what on earth was his character doing in this film?
Absolutely nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. And I loved him. He was just chuntering away to himself the entire time. Like, he's not talking to anybody. He is just, like, muttering to himself. And then when he's just like, "You're a nice girl, aren't you?" And it's like, you're a creep. You've made everyone upset. He was the only character I liked.
Who asked this?
I was like, I also feel really sorry for him, because you've got all these like 20 and 30-year-olds pretending they're 15 when they're clearly not. And he's like the only guy actually playing his age. I was like, I felt so sorry for him. But honestly. So yeah, okay. So we have Rodrigo is killed. Now, and this is the other thing, right? So this is what I was going to say about it being really bizarre, about the way they really want us to believe it's Ollie. The problem with that, with our media literacy, is we know it's not Ollie. That's very clear to us that it's not him. But it makes Makani look stupid that she's the only one who doesn't think it's him. And like, I get why Alex like beelines that it's him. I don't understand why it had to be a whole conflict thing. Like, why did that have to be like other than, oh, so Makani's by themselves? Cool. Also, Makani's secret and secret identity and stuff, like, we were texting at the time and we were talking about how like these flashbacks weren't doing anything for us. The actual thing behind the flashbacks, boring.
really boring.
So flat.
It's not even an initiation or anything gone wrong. It's like, I don't understand.
They got her drunk. They shoved raw meat in her face, and she shoved somebody who wasn't even one of the people hazing her, just some random girl. She just shoved her.
It just doesn't make.
I would not acquit you for that.
It didn't add up to anything. Like, nothing made sense. No. Nothing made sense.
So hated that. I did think the actual scene where she's confronted with everything was, again, like, I thought it was very aesthetically pleasing. Like, I will say that the only thing that I can say that I actually liked about it was how it was stylized. I quite liked that. And like you said, obviously with like the blood and stuff, like it's a very like bold choice to go for like white behind that. I liked that. But that's really the only nice thing I have to say about the whole film. Like, the dialogue didn't make any sense. The plot, what plot? What plot? Like, that was a complete waste of time. There's a couple of times when they try and throw in like the odd red herring, but there's no actual clues.
There's no actual clues. In fact, there's so few clues that the killer has to demask himself because no one has brain cells to think about who it is. And even I, like, as a viewer, wasn't even trying to guess who it was. I was more so thinking it would be lol if it was this person, because I didn't care. I didn't care who it was.
No.
It was obviously going to be one of the friends who were close to her, because they're the only characters that have a semblance of 3D elements to them, if you can call it that.
Barely. Like, let's talk about Darby, right? Let's talk about Darby's storyline. Darby is the trans character who's going to NASA. That's it. That is the extent of their storyline. They've got no secret. They've got no hidden agenda. Their problem-solving skills is pants, because they're in the car trying to work out who it could be, and they just throw these clues out from fucking nowhere. From nowhere. They're just like, oh, and the sheriff, and like this person. It's none of those people, and we've got 5 minutes left of the film. So
don't forget that Darby catches McCartney with a bloody knife, and then McCartney tells her story in the next frame, and then Darby's like, I don't believe you're the killer because you get me donuts when I'm sad.
You get me donuts when I'm sad. You back me. And it's like, we love a friend. Darby. But then like their like little thing is, oh my God, I got into like the NASA scholarship thing. And then they're wearing like a NASA t-shirt at the end. And I was like, why do I feel like this would have been so much more interesting if Darby like went to like some NASA space camp thing and then people started getting murdered? Like, what was this storyline? Like, it felt like they were just like, okay, we need LGBT in STEM because women in STEM is not good enough. We need LGBT in STEM. And then we can't kill them because that's burying the gays. So they get to live. Everyone else is going to die. Like, literally every other friend gets stabbed, murked, or loses a loved one. Darby comes out unscathed. And I'm not being funny. I shipped Darby and Caleb. They were cute. They were super cute. They barely said 2 words to each other, but I was here for it.
They both had one personality trait. That was it.
Yeah, and their personality trait was that they were LGBT. Like, that was it. They were just nice people. Honestly, wild.
What else happened? The
car. Oh my God! Right.
The car, the most flammable object that there possibly is. They drive it through a cornfield that is burning and a wall of fire, and then they're like, everybody get out the car, it might explode. And the car has the nerve to not even explode.
That kills me. They just parked it.
They just parked it and they were like, oh, we've gone out. Also, what is this, like, we're going to drive past a ring of fire and then there's smoke, but nothing else is burning. It's just smoke.
Can we talk about the fact that they thought it was a good idea to drive into something they couldn't see to get people out? Like, imagine, okay, it's a wall of fire, and where there isn't fire, there's smoke. But you're going to drive in blind at full speed, by the way. Like, he wasn't creeping about. He was full speed. Because what? Because the pathway that was actually there wasn't clear enough? What are you talking about? Like, I get that it's amazing stuff, but genuinely, like, what the hell? And, like, also, the fact that they find, like, that group of footballers, they're like, we'll save the football team. That made me laugh. And then they save like 3 of them. like 3 of them make it out, and the rest are just peppered across the floor. I did really one thing that really tickled me was when the villain comes to his whole villain speech thing, and he's like, do you have any idea how long I've thought about doing that? Do you have any idea how much legwork this takes? I was like, I respect it. Like, I respect how genuinely mad he is that he's put all this hard work in, and because his friends came to save him, like, oh, pissed.
Like,
that was
but
funny.
I don't understand. Why did he even make that phone call?
Right, because if anything, that was when I was like, I was convinced it was him at that point. I was convinced because I was like, we know he hates his dad. Why would he go back into the fire to save him?
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And also, who's like, I need to save him, please? I was just like, that dialogue doesn't make any sense. I need to save him, please, from people who aren't even nearby. I just don't understand why you'd make that phone call. It doesn't prove your innocence. It doesn't do anything. Maybe it places you in the fire, but literally everyone knew that you were in the fire. That's the reason why they headed in that direction anyway. So
also, if it took them that long to get from the school to the cornfield that the sun set, how did he get there before that?
No, doesn't make
how did he get there? Because like that just doesn't make any sense. Like, they knew he was going to be there, so it makes sense that he would be there, but we also know that he's just been stabbing Caleb in the corridor. So where is he? How is he a magician? Like, how did he do that? Like, wild to me. But genuinely, the car thing got me. The fact that he was so annoyed, and then the fact that his whole reason, his MO, his magnum opus was because white privilege shouldn't be a thing.
Also,
like, he's killed a racist. So like, what?
I didn't understand. Also, the taser of convenience.
Yeah. I love the fact he missed.
I know. I don't. It was just such a bad film.
Not good. It
was such a bad film. Also, we should have known it was him from the beginning because those masks are custom made and tailored to whoever it looks like. So you have to have money. Like, from the title sequence, we should have known. You have to have money to
those printers are expensive.
The printers are traceable.
That's so funny. How
are the police? No, I know the policeman was supposed to be useless. He was writing down things that he was saying that he thought was smart. But you can find the printers so easily. It's like step 1 in the police rule book. I know this. And who paid for it? Probably his daddy's bank account or something.
And like, I love that his dad is like, I missed this flight so I could like give you this lecture that went nowhere. Like, nothing happened. No, that was not a threat. And he acts like really scared of his dad, but he's quite clearly unhinged. Like, he's clearly not scared of anybody. Like, I did really enjoy the bit where he's like, I'm not a sociopath. A sociopath would have no emotional investment. This is really important to me.
That's the best part of the film. Like, that is the only part that made me laugh.
That was genuinely such a good line. Like, this is really important to me. Got me. And you know what? It got me in the same way that, like, the bit where Matthew Lillard... Have you seen Scream? Have you seen the...
I actually haven't,
They're really good. There's a bit where the bad guy gets stabbed to try and like feign that it wasn't them, and he just goes, "Oh, that hurt," and it's like, it's such a throwaway thing. Like, he's mad that it hurts, and it's like, it feels so real. And I was like, him being pissed off that this hasn't gone the way he... Of course I'm invested in this. The amount of time I've put into this, of course I care. Loved it. I thought that was genius.
It was good. I think the only thing to mention now is the ending, which I found bizarre because I know this is set in the high school, but I don't think everyone reading acceptance letters is the ending that it thought it was going for. Especially when some of the friends are reading for like acceptance letters in, like, I didn't know Alex did music. When has that ever been mentioned?
It literally never came up.
I was so confused. The ending was just like the cherry on top of a bad film. Also, it did a cigarette metaphor, I just remembered. And I was like...
The fact that you made a reference to Fault in Our Stars killed me.
I was like...
It's metaphorical. Are you serious?
You can't reuse that. It's too iconic to one media already. You can't...
And also, like, that story is literally like... And the whole the only time that a reference to that has ever worked is in Orange is the New Black, which is, it's a metaphor, you potato with eyes. Like it's like, it's the idea that like if you have to explain the metaphor, and this is what fucking killed me about the whole mask thing. He takes the mask off and then he explains why he puts the masks on in the first place, so that he can confront you with who you really are, because we've all got masks and we're all hiding who we really are. And I was like, oh, thanks for explaining that, because I couldn't have got it from just looking at it. Like, who is this for? Because I think also, I think the thing on it said like 15 or 18, right? Because of the sheer amount of violence. But you're talking to us like we're idiots or children. So like, who is this for? Wild.
Also, you understand that metaphor in the first 5 minutes, because the first person who dies is like, it wasn't me. And then he sees the killer's face and he's like, it was me, or like he says something like that.
Yeah,
that's enough to get the metaphor from the get-go.
It was a team thing. It's not me. And then he looks at his own face and it's like, oh, isn't that powerful? Isn't that clever? Thanks for explaining it to me in the last 10 minutes. Couldn't have got it otherwise.
Yeah. Wild. So how would you rate this film out of 5, Hannah?
Out of 5? Oh, okay. So I'd have to give it a 1.5. Because genuinely, I do the same thing with books, where I only give 1 stars to things that I DNF. If I hadn't been watching this for the watch along, I would have DNF'd after the first 20 minutes. So I made it to the end, so we get to 1.5. There were a couple of bits in it that were funny, but like I'm genuinely, so I've signed back up to IMDb, and I've signed up with a new email address so I can have all my ratings fresh. I'm genuinely like, out of 10, I'm like, what the hell do I give this? And I'm like, do I core pile it? I might have to, because this is bad. Like, So
I'm a 1-star rating, just plain front center. I would have DNF'd it. I was seriously considering suggesting that we DNF and then star resprints. So that's a 1 star from me. What Pixies gathered is nothing about this film makes sense, including the politics.
So it got 4.9 out of 10 on IMDb. Like, people think it's fine.
It's not fine though.
It's not fine. I'm giving it a 2 on mine, which of all my ratings makes it the lowest I've ever watched.
Thanks for joining, Abby. Don't give it your time.
No, don't.
We use Letterboxd. I see that everywhere.
No, I've not used Letterboxd, but I also see that people use I feel like Letterboxd is probably one of the like more official ones, whereas the IMDb one I have like a soft spot for anyway, because I've always used it. And then the guy who invented it in the first place, just because he wanted to share movie facts, got an honourable postdoctorate on the same day that I graduated from my master's degree. So postgraduate, not postdoctorate, postgraduate. He got an honorary graduate degree for doing it on the same day that I did, which I thought was very sweet. And he was like a really wholesome nerd. He had like his little speech, because obviously they do like the Chancellor's speech, and our Chancellor at the time was Jeremy Irons. So got to meet him and shake his hand. He is incredible and has like the sexiest voice I've ever heard in real life. He was really nice. So he does like a whole speech. And then the IMDb guy got up and did a whole speech. And his speech was just like, I've got 10 facts about films that you might find interesting. And I was like, you're adorable. You're adorable. So he would not have watched this and had a good time with it. And it makes me sad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Lizzie watched 20 Minutes in the Middle, I guess with you.
Yes. So Zach and Lizzie were downstairs with me. Now, when it first started, so Zach and Lizzie are both working late tonight. So Zach had to leave at 8. Or started work at 8, so left at like 7:30, 2:45. So he only watched like the first 20 minutes. Lizzie only watched the first 20 minutes. Zach, when it first started, was like, is this a horror film? Because he is not okay with horror films. He doesn't like being scared. So he was like, I'd rather watch anything else. And I was like, it'll be fine because it's like a 15 or whatever. And then we were just kind of like, all 3 of us were like, this is not good. Like, this is not a good film. But Lizzie had the escape route of being able to go back upstairs. And I was like, I need to commit to this because we're going to have to discuss it. And I was like, there's no way I would be able to fake having seen it and just like Google reviewed it. Just like saw what other people had to say about it and palmed it off. But I was like, I would have obviously we were texting the time. Both of us were like, I would rather be doing anything else right now.
Yeah, I shot myself in the foot a bit with the live tweeting this time.
Yeah. Do you know, it's a real shame because like last year's with Ready or Not was so
fantastic.
Good. And the year before that, obviously, we did The Addams Family, which was a nice film, but I remember I had my issues with it because I like the originals for very specific reasons, and those reasons weren't met. So like
it was a fine film.
Bad before.
Yeah. We haven't watched something this bad. I can't even remember what our other options were that we were tying with. Oh, the Disney. Actually, I did like the Disney Haunted Mansion.
I liked it too, but I prefer the original. I prefer the Eddie Murphy one. Because this one just felt too much like the ride. Whereas I feel like the last one was kind of like the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, where yes, it has elements of it, but it feels like something that stands on its own. So if you've never been on the ride, it doesn't matter. Whereas the new one, I felt like there were just too many things that were straight out of the ride, like the chair thing that they sit in.
I have to disagree because I don't know anything about any of the rides, but I really like the film. So I do think it stands alone.
That's fair. Well, I think maybe it was just a bit too close to me. I literally went to Disneyland last year, so I feel like it was a bit too similar, a bit too samey for me. But then they would have updated the ride around the same time they were filming the film, so that probably wouldn't have helped. But
I did go to Disneyland, but I don't think I was that like because we used to go to a lot of roller coaster parks. I wasn't as interested in the rides as I was more so interested in the like the parade and like the characters and the other bits. So I don't actually remember any of the rides. We went on every single ride when we went to Disneyland, but I don't remember them very deeply. I also remember the parade and the
the parade's fantastic. The parade's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, I loved it. I've been to Disney 3 times because I'm incredibly lucky. I went when I was 3. Did I go 4 times? No, I must have been about 5 or 6 because I went with my family. I then got to go because my mum's best friend was a teacher on a school trip and needed some parent volunteers. So snuck my mum and I on because she was bringing her daughter as well. So that was the second time I went. And then I went for the 3rd time last year for my 30th birthday with my mother, which was definitely because my mum wanted to go and not because I actually wanted to go. Like I am not a massive fan of roller coasters, and I quite liked the fact that Disney just kind of lived in this nostalgia realm of my brain where I could be like, I enjoyed that was fun, but I don't need to do it again. But I had a really good time. It's just really, really expensive for what it is.
It is. I don't think we bought anything. Like, we didn't buy food because my mom is very keen on like bring food to roller coaster parks. You don't spend like half a ton on food, and it was just like entrance.
Yeah.
And we went off season, plus we were queue jumping with Simone, so it was funny because we'd actually finished everything. Like, we'd spent we booked out the whole day to spend the whole day there, but because it was off season and because we were queue jumping with Simone, it meant that we'd ridden everything that you could possibly ride in like half the day. So we were just waiting around for the parade to happen, which was worth waiting for. But I guess it's not the level of Disney World, the one in the US. It's not the level of Disney World.
No. Well, I guess what time are you starting your sleepover party?
It is in 20 minutes, so it's at 45 too. So we can have like a 20-minute break. I'm going to make a cup of tea, and then regroup for I think we're doing short sprints because we're going up till midnight, so like half an hour sprints.
Yeah, that works for me. I finished the book that I was going to read earlier today, so I've got 2 middle grades that I'm going to pick one of. I haven't decided which yet, but both are spooky, and I want them to be gentle. They'll be the last thing I read for Gothtober, probably.
I have finished all of my Gothtober prompts, and I have a big reading project in November, so I'm not actually that keen on like actually doing any productive reading. So I've got a spooky short story collection, which I don't need to finish before the end of the month, but I'll just peck away at when I'm in the mood to read.
No, that's cool. I'm trying really hard not to just deep dive in to directorial lore. So I bought myself, for those of you who don't know, I've written a play. I've written a Midsummer Night's Dream retelling, and I bought myself a fairy notebook to like keep all my notes in. But I've been watching YouTube videos on like being a good director and stuff, and I've been making notes. So if I finish my books before our sprints end, that is what I will be doing this evening.
Back to uni days. Studying.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, let's sign off here, and we'll see you all in 15 minutes. It's also on this channel, very convenient, and we'll see you then. Oh, I should have pressed the end button before I